Hello and welcome to Ham Nation, episode 550. That's right, July 5th, 2023.
How can that be? We're not that old.
All right, yeah, I know, right? How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Ham Nation, July 5th. So hopefully, everybody's safe and sound. You can all hear us okay. You're not racking your brain with tinnitus. But yeah, we're going to be talking about our things that happened during field day. I'm obviously back from San Clemente. I haven't talked much about it. I've got a video coming out on it soon. But yeah, lots of things to mention. But let's go ahead and say hi to the folks here on the show. Hello, everyone.
Hey there.
Hello.
Hi.
All right. So Joe up in the left corner there, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Nice sunny day here in Nebraska compared to yesterday anyways, where it was pretty stormy when we're trying to do fireworks. And I'll be showing a couple of the field day photos from this year and talk about one thing that went wrong that everybody ought to be watching for during field day.
Very, very good. Yeah, there's a couple of, I think, lessons learned we're all going to have peppered through the show. So everybody learned a little something. Every time you go and do field day, I think you learn something. But Gordo, how you doing? We heard you loud and clear from San Clemente Island.
It was a pleasure working you on Simplex FM, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight, and that is how high can make things happen.
Excellent. And Don, how are you today, sir?
I'm good. Unfortunately, I did not get to do field day because I worked, and I haven't been able to do any of the 4th of July stuff either on
13 colonies?
Yeah, I haven't done any of that either because I've been working all week, and I'll work all week. I'm finally going to have Saturday off, and we've got a memorial actually for my mother-in-law on Saturday. So yeah, my whole week has been shot with other things, and I haven't been able to do any ham radio stuff, and I'm so depressed about it. But maybe Sunday I'll get to do some. No, I can't operate Sunday either because I got to take my brother-in-law back to the airport.
So you got
eventually, sometime before fall, I'll get on the radio.
Good.
I hope.
That's all you can ask for. And Amanda, how are you doing? Back from field day, looking good?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, got a little bit of sun. Put down the beers. And we had such a good time at field day. And I'll be talking about that, and I'll be recapping what it looked like while we were in action. And we're also going to be covering the 13 colonies. You still have some time to get on the air and work them, everybody. So we'll be going over that. And don't forget, I'm looking at the chat room right here, and I'll be taking your questions for our hosts. So thanks for being here tonight, everybody.
Yeah.
We're going to send it to Gordo because Gordo's going to take it away and tell us all about his activities this last week.
Excellent.
All right. Well, a very good evening to all of our viewers and listeners. And let's jump right into short shots, and we'll show you what's happening out there in the troposphere. We made at field day some pretty good contacts over a couple 100 miles away on 2 meters FM. And everybody said, well, I mean, how could you do that? It's well beyond line of sight. And the answer is it all happens in the troposphere on the 2 meter, 222, and the 440 band. So tonight, we're not going to talk about stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, exosphere, or any kind of those. We're going to talk about good old tropo. So normally, when we have a normal day, tropospheric, the air contains nitrogen, and the air contains oxygen, and argon, and carbon dioxide, and neon, and helium, a little bit of methane after field day hot dogs, but that's normal air. And what occurs every July 4th and 5th, today being July 5th, is something abnormal that occurs to our troposphere. Now, normally as we go higher in altitude, the temperature will decrease by 1 degree Fahrenheit for every 300 feet. That's why when you climb that big hill, it got a little cooler up there. It goes, if it's a 5,000-foot mountain, it's going to drop down 20 degrees. Also, what occurs is the higher we go in altitude, moisture will lose a 0.5 gram per kilogram at 1,000 feet. And as we go higher up on a mountaintop, you all know your ears pop, and that's pressure. Pressure decreases logarithmically, and at a kilometer up, we lose about 100 millibars. Well, that's when everything is normal. Well, come July and August throughout all of the world, things get a little abnormal. And as you can see by the red areas there, that's ocean temperatures, as well as combining with atmospheric temperatures, along with a few hurricanes, things get a little warm. And when things get warm, it's because of the different types of storms, such as the hurricanes that are feeding up bands of warm air. And over our relatively cool, about 70-degree water, it gets cooler, the air right above it. But then above that, something happens. Now take a good look at what we're looking at a couple Julys ago. And we're looking out there on the ocean, and you'll see that Josh has been to this exact same spot. But you see that big brown mass of air just hanging right off the water. That's because the high-pressure system sitting overhead, called the Pacific High, and you also have one on the Atlantic, and those of you in the Midwest, Joe, you've got a high-pressure system coming in a few more days. That high-pressure system begins to subside, and subsidence will squish that air. It will trap all of the pollutants that we see there, and if the air gets squished, what happens when you compress air? It gets warm. So right off the ocean or off the good old continental U.S., we have cool air at the bottom, 70 degrees, and then a band of warm air that's maybe 10 degrees delta, 10 degrees warmer. And that band of warm air, thanks to the high pressure system, is going to do some exciting things to our VHF and UHF. So it's called tropospheric ducting, and it's where that warm air mass gets squished by a high-pressure system overhead. And if you listen to the VHF Weather Service, you'll hear them say something like this.
A 1036 millibar high was 800 nautical miles west of Portland, with ridge building into the Pacific Northwest and the Great Basin. A thermal trough.
Well, we love those high-pressure systems because the high-pressure systems will begin to develop a 10-degree higher little band of brown air. That's all the things caught up in there. And guess what else gets caught up in there? That is VHF radio signals. And here's one of the longest-range VHF radio signals that almost every year in July we hear well here on the West Coast. That's on the 2-meter band, and that's coming in not 100 miles away, not 1,000 miles away, but 2,500 miles away from Hawaii. So the big tropospheric duct will actually bend what is normally a line-of-sight signal because of the stratification of that warm air right above what would be brown. That would be the cool ocean. Then there's that cap of brown air just above the real dark brown air, and then above that, it gets cooler. So that band of warm air that can extend sometimes hundreds, if not 1,000 miles away, is what's going to give us some real excitement. This is called Fata Morgana, and it occurs when we maybe have one or two of these tropospheric ducts. And notice they're not very high. Here along the West Coast, the tropospheric duct to Hawaii, which lasts for 3 and 4 days as long as the high pressure system just sits there, that tropospheric duct will be about the 600-foot level. And sometimes we get a secondary duct at about 2,000 feet. And the key for long range is to be able to be into that tropospheric duct or slightly below it. But don't climb a mountain, because if you do, you're going to be above that warm air mass and your signal won't get into the duct. But below it, yes, that's a nice transition to be able to get into tropospheric ducting. Well, we've all seen tropospheric ducting. You're looking down at the hot roadway, and oh my gosh, there's water ahead. No, that's not water. That's the superheated air, 10 to 20 degrees warmer than the asphalt below, and that's causing line of sight signals to actually be refracted and reflected. That what looks almost like water. And that reflection can do some mighty interesting things over land masses as well as over the ocean. And one thing is, yes, you can actually see tropospheric ducting influenced by a high pressure system by just looking out your window and looking at a band of brown air that is sometimes causing some interesting things to happen. This is our local island called Catalina, and that little notch just below the two seagulls or pelicans, I guess those are pelicans, that first pelican right below there, that notch. Well, look what happens when the tropospheric duct moves in. Now you see a warm air mass, and it's caused a distortion of that Catalina Island notch. And a little bit later on, now it's created a bridge. So optically, tropospheric ducting can do some mighty interesting things. And here was one of the most bizarre ones I've seen, and that is a reflection of a ship seen on the horizon. Yep, that's a reflection. That's not another ship or a landmass. And that's thanks to the warm air inversion called tropospheric ducting. Just amazing what it does. Now, you don't have to necessarily come here to the West Coast to do 2,500 miles to Hawaii, because as you see, you've got openings that occur in the Midwest, up in the Great Lakes, a ton of them down in Texas. And during July and August, when there's a high pressure system, it's very common to have that tropospheric duct work all the way from Nova Scotia down to Florida.
To illustrate that, beam pointing toward Hawaii to capture the beacon is indeed important. It's not as critical as you might think. We'll call off the changes in beam heading.
Now, beams are usable for tropospheric ducting. The weak signal operators usually have them horizontally polarized. But as I found out over the last two field days, the last couple of years, there's not a lot of those listening for the beacons. There's not a lot of folks on the weak signal band. In fact, when I operated a couple of weeks ago for field day, there was hardly anybody there for weak signal. But of course, FT8 and the other ones were very popular. So a lot of tropospheric ducts all over. Now, the Hepburn Tropo Index is a great one to look at. Make a note, dxinfocenter.com, and center is INFOCENTRE.com, and you'll be able to see tropospheric ducting, and look at that one between the local area and all the way out to Hawaii.
Off of dead on 0 degrees. Here we are right on 0 degrees on. There is 5 degrees off, 10 degrees off.
Wow, you can hear that the band really changes for reception when that beam is more than about 10 degrees off. So tropospheric ducting on a beam is a little dicey unless you just do it all the time. So we encourage you, you may want to just try it on a vertical antenna. Now, those of you in the Midwest and along the east, many times you'll have a warm air mass coming in, overriding the cold air below. And right there where the two meet, besides sometimes tornadoes, many times that you'll have a path that will open up for 400, 500, and 600 miles. So when you have weather systems that are building, like we see here, highs and lows and warm air and cold air, that's a great time to try 2 meters, 222 and 440 for some great tropospheric ducting. And looking at the tropoducting forecast, the Hepburn report, take a look at this. See the area in red, and it's all from the west coast of the USA, 2,500 miles to Hawaii. So everybody thought, well, single sideband is the only way that you're going to work tropo. Well, a few years ago with KH6HME, we made a little test. Listen to this when we go from single sideband to FM. I mean, 2,500 miles.
I'm on sideband now. This is King Henry 6 Hotel Mike Echo on the island of Hawaii. I'm on single sideband and I am going to go to FM right now. Now I am on FM. This is King Henry 6 Hotel Mike Echo.
Well, now we disproved that it takes sideband or CW. When you get a tropo duck that's this pronounced, it will carry 2,500 miles FM at 20 watts, 25 watts, no problem. The Hawaiian station has been modernized, and we've not heard a lot about it, but I think that the beacons now are on the air, but we just haven't heard them lately. And a lot of things have changed because there's not a lot of folks that are willing to take the 3 or 4 hours to drive up to the Hawaii side, which is on an active volcano. So our Paul, KH6HME, also a silent key, and he came over just to do a little blessing of the twin antennas that you see over his right shoulder. And that's what we'll quickly talk about before we sign off. And yes, the tropo duck was strong enough, 2,500 miles on the 446, make that 436 band, to be able to receive and QSO with Hawaii on slow scan amateur television. Well, the venerable beams, they've been up for 42 years, and after months and months of trying to investigate how the weak signal operators were going to be operating and so on, it was time they came down. And I felt sad, but there was really no more beacons really to be listening to. Well, this is Mike, and Mike, AI6 Whiskey Echo, he climbs anything and everything. First thing we had to do was we didn't have a cherry picker, too expensive. So we first got rid of the lower beam, which he could do safely, and he's got all his proper climbing harness on. And he's now just a quick look up there. Yep, he should have the hard hat, but he prefers to work with safety glasses, but no hard hat. And we dropped that first beam down, which was not a real problem. When we brought it down, we want to take a look at the feed point. This is 40 years later, and that is coaxial and good old 3M tape. And that is a clean connector. There is no moisture in there. We metered it out. So if you're going to be putting exposed elements of a PL259 or a splitter for the twin beams that we had here, if you do the goo and then cover it with great 3M tape and maybe a little shellac on top of that, it'll last, this one, 40 years. This is the gin pole. What the gin pole does, it's going to allow us to release the bottom heavy pole from the rotator, and that's a tail twister. Boy, those really work well. And notice then we put the long pole on that top beam, put it through the tower, and we had just enough room where he could be able to get at and begin to disassemble the top beam. So that was good. And again, we looked at all of the connections, and after 40 years right next to the Blue Pacific, they all survived and they were all shiny. However, aluminum, after 40 years next to the salt air, that begins to be a problem. We could not separate it. We wanted to maybe break the beam down and give away some samples. We undid the hose clamp. We got one apart, and as you can see, it's pretty messy on the inside. And yes, we did use a compound when we put it up 40 years ago to keep it as conductive as possible, not the buildup of the white fuzz. The elements themselves, they were well anchored to the boom, but you just looked at the elements. One bird sat on this one and it broke right off. And if you look at that, aluminum is just frail as can be and brittle as can be after 40 years. And as for changing the feed point assembly, not a chance. Those are just about welded to the boom. We want to thank Heiko 86OI. He helped put up the rack many years ago, once for maintenance. Heiko, thank you. And assisting Heiko was Gary and Debbie, AA6GJ, and Debbie, WB6LVC. They roll the free classes of ham radio on the internet on Zoom. And if you're interested, just send me a note at my call sign at arrl.net, and I'll send you the free classroom. And take a look just above the left-hand tree. Yep, nothing more up there but a nice clean tower. But yeah, we'll find something to put on it. And of course, we had to have always a great shot of Josh because he was out at San Clemente Island. And while it wasn't 2,500 miles away, it was still a great contact because we had a little bit of tropo ducting, and there are his kids that are keeping him straight. So next time you watch the sun and it's been a hot day and the high pressure system was overhead and you watch the sun dip into the ocean and then you see the sun again, look at that. That is tropospheric ducting. All of you throughout the United States will have a good opportunity for tropoducting. And by the way, the second edition of my propagation book is now available at CQ Magazine. So look up CQ Magazine, and they carry my new propagation book, and it has Chip Margelli, K7JA, talking about the digital modes. Because, folks, that's what's happening to weak signal work. They're all going digital, so the art of listening to the dots and dashes and looking for the tropos, not much anymore. But I encourage all of you on FM, tune in to one of your local weather stations and then tune in some of the ones that never come in, and you may be surprised that you're picking up weather stations on 162 megahertz, 162.55, and so on. You're picking them up 400 and 500 miles away during tropospheric ducting when you see that brown air hanging over the horizon. So, Amanda, that's our story on tropoducting, and you probably get some that can work stations to the east as well. Amanda?
I haven't made many contacts. I can tell you one thing about it, and that is our repeaters who share a frequency all the way to Kansas, which is 500 miles away.
Wow, yeah.
And they will start to intermix.
Yep.
So, not kidding. If they have the same tone, we're going to hear them, and that's pretty interesting too. So, Gordo, I do have some questions for you, and I have one other statement now. If you buy the new 905 and such, I think that you're going to be able to see on the waterfall when it happens, and you're going to see other stations. So thank goodness for ICOM and putting waterfalls in all of their newest radios.
Cool stuff.
First, tropospheric ducting happens whenever there is a temp inversion ? Is that correct, Gordo?
Yes, the temperature inversion generally needs to be 10 degrees warmer than the surface air below. And of course, it'll be much warmer than the cooler air above. But 10 degrees or greater inversion due to the high pressure system squeezing the air into that one band of warm air that acts like a VHF, UHF waveguide.
Okay. And then the next question is, what is the best software to check for tropospheric ducting? And I wanted to go a little bit further in this. Is there some kind of alert system that can let you know when it's taking place? So you just get on your smartphone and it's like, alert, tropospheric ducting, get on the radio.
You can dx.qsl.net/propagation/tropo, and they have alerts, as well as DX Info Center. You can really see where they have mapped out where the high pressure system is. But the very best bet is tune into your weather channels on a handheld or a 25-watt mobile radio and turn the squelch off, and when you begin to hear weather channels that you've never ever heard before in your local area, the band is open, and generally 300 to 500 miles is typical for the mid-U.S.
All right. Well,
I've got
Josh, have you made any of those tropo
I think
contacts?
I think I've had an accidental, right, where you where I can get down to like San Diego without much of an issue, where I normally
Oh,
can
really?
never do that kind of thing. Would that count, Gordo, somewhat?
Oh,
South
absolutely.
San Diego, yeah. So if I'm doing over like 100 miles on VHF simplex, I usually think I'm pretty somewhere in the right space. So
I've got a couple of cool Tropo stories if you got a minute
well,
for
let
them.
me
Of
ask
course
my
we
question.
do.
I'll throw to you, Don.
Sure.
So polarization. Does it matter if you're vertically or horizontally polarized? Is it a both sides have to match kind of thing, or what do you do there?
Great question,
Good.
Josh.
Great question. That's why I took down my 2 long boomers. They're horizontal. Almost no one these days, except for the real dedicated tropo folks like myself. Vertical is, you need to have the same polarization. So vertical is the most popular because everybody's vertical, except for a few of us that were horizontal. So yes, going cross polarization, you're going to lose 8 to 12 dB. So
Wow. That's
yeah,
a big
tons. Keep vertical.
Excellent. Okay, Don, go ahead.
Yeah, back in the 80s when I was working at a radio station in New Orleans, WNOE, we had a VHF business band talkback system where we could actually, two-way radio, where we could talk to whoever was doing like a live remote. And that thing started crackling to life one day. And I picked up the microphone and was talking to somebody in Texas on that thing. And I'm like,
Wow.
and that was before I was a ham. I had no idea what was going on. And then when I worked at WRNO, we used to always get the engineering staff would get calls during the summertime because all of a sudden you couldn't hear this 100,000 watt FM across the lake, 40 miles away. You could not hear it. And I could always tell when the band was open driving to work from here. When I could not hear WRNO, I would turn on the 2-meter radio and put it on 14694, the old 3494, which was, the very first repeater pair. And one morning I was driving in from South Mississippi to New Orleans, and we had a roundtable discussion on the 3494 pair from South Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas. I think Kansas was in there.
Oh, wow.
Missouri was in there.
My goodness.
Alabama was in there. Florida was in there. Georgia was in there. So the whole Gulf Coast and a couple of states up into the Midwest was all on there. And it was the weirdest, coolest hour. I spent a whole hour. I talked to all these people driving to work, the 60-mile commute one morning. And that was it's the only time it's ever happened to that extent. But Tropo's fun.
It's pretty cool.
Tropo's
Many
fun.
years ago, I would DX the TV band, and I just have rabbit ears or something. And my favorite time was around Labor Day weekend because that's when we get the stagnant high pressure systems and hot, humid days. And what would happen is we'd get Tropo and the TV band. Well, back then, the TV didn't tell you what station it was. So you had to wait for a commercial or an ID. But on Labor Day weekend, I called it the Jerry Lewis openings because the telethon would be on all day and all night, overnight. And they'd be flashing up the cities and phone numbers so you knew right away where it was coming from. And so it always seemed to happen on Labor Day weekend. So when that telethon was on, I would know exactly what I was hearing. I also used to do that in the FM broadcast band, but now we have too many signals. So there's not much empty space anymore.
When I was a kid, a teenager, I never quite I didn't have this understanding of how radio and waves worked and things like that. But all of a sudden I would hear stations from Denver coming in and I'm like, oh my God, it's so cool. I get to hear rock from Denver. And now I know why. Right. So, there you go. Okay. Thank you, Gordo, for your informational.
You got it.
And,
Single sideband with your ICOM equipment is not dead, not at all. But tropospheric ducting, you got to be horizontal if you're going to go specific when one other station 100 miles away or so. So for the rest of us, try FM, get used to the tropo duct, and hopefully you'll get caught up as we are out here. In fact, let's take a look and see what ICOM is coming up with, huh?
From
Thank you,
base
Gordo.
stations to portable models, ICOM has the best radio for working your favorite bands this summer. Whether outside enjoying sunny skies or inside by the AC, stay cool with ICOM. It's time for WRTC 2022. ICOM America is proud to be the first platinum level sponsor of this worldwide contesting event. July 7th through 9th in Bologna, Italy, teams from all over the world will compete to be the best team in the world for the next 4 years. Be sure to get on the air and work as many WRTC stations as possible. Coinciding with WRTC 2022 is the 2023 IARU HF World Championship, July 8th through 9th, beginning at 1200 UTC Saturday and ending at 1200 UTC Sunday. Both single and multi-operator stations may operate for the entire 24-hour period. All licensed amateurs worldwide are eligible to participate. Explore the world of microwave with ICOM's new SHF portable, the IC905. This all-mode rig covers 2 meters, 70 centimeters, 1.2 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz, 5.6 gigahertz, and with an optional CX-G10 transverter, 10 gigahertz. This transceiver also has a few industry firsts up its belt. It's the first to support the 5 major global bands from VHF to SHF. The first Power over Ethernet powered RF module designed to be at the base of the antenna to eliminate signal loss, and the first to be compatible with amateur TV in analog FM mode. Other features include large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time high-speed spectrum scope and waterfall display, easy digital mode settings, supplied high-performance GPS antenna, full D-Star functions for DV and DD mode, and an SD card slot. Aim higher and enter the world of SHF. The ICOM IC7300 is a high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design that will far exceed your expectations. This innovative HF transceiver digitizes RF before various receiver stages, reducing the generated inherent noise in different IF stages. This is the radio that changed the way entry-level HF is designed. RF direct sampling, 15 discrete bandpass filters, large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time spectrum scope, and SD memory card slot. The real HF fun starts here. Create your own band opening with the IC9700. This radio brings direct sampling to the UHF-VHF weak signal world. The IC9700 is an all-mode transceiver loaded with innovative features that are sure to keep you busy. Expect top performance on field day with ICOM's IC9700. The IC7610 is the SDR every ham wants. This high-performance SDR can pick out faint signals in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. The ICOM 7610 is a direct sampling, software-defined radio that's changed the world's definition of an SDR transceiver. RF direct sampling, 110 dB RMDR, independent dual receiver, and dual digicell. For more information about all the great ICOM radios, visit icomamerica.com/amateur.
And we appreciate ICOM so much for sponsoring Ham Nation here on the Ham Radio Crash Course. Every time we go live, if you click that little Enter Now button over at icomamerica.com/Ham Nation, and guess what? The link is in the description. You can be entered to win one of 2 swag pack prizes. 3 swag pack prizes. And then at the end of the month, they draw from everybody who's won a swag pack to win a radio. And this month, what are we, July now? They're going to be giving away an IC V86. So make sure you click Enter Now and get in on that. With that said, the winners of the swag pack this episode are Ray F., K6NOV, Bill H, KW4QO, and James F, KE8YNW. Thanks so much to ICOM. We truly appreciate it. And now off to Don. What's new, Don?
Hey, we've got news of the week from Amateur Radio Newsline, and I believe we've got a solar update from Dr. Scove as well. So let's go ahead and, and also we're going to introduce you to the 2023 Young Ham of the Year. So let's go ahead and get into Newsline. From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2383. This is Ham Nation Headlines for Wednesday, July 5th, 2023. In the UK, Ofcom is proposing a major overhaul of amateur radio licensing and operations.
Stating it wants to provide amateurs in the UK with greater access to licenses while delivering greater operating freedom, the communications regulator Ofcom is proposing sweeping changes to its ham radio license framework. None of these changes affects the frequencies or bands amateurs can use, but it does increase the maximum permitted transmitting power for the three classes of license. The proposed maximum allowances are 20 watt for the foundation, 100 watts for intermediate in most bands, and 1,000 watts for full license holders who are operating where ham radio has a primary allocation. The holders of a foundation license would be permitted on the 2.4 gigs and 5 gigs bands. In another change, hams advancing to a higher class of license would be required to surrender their lower level license and call sign, only a single personal license. This requirement would not apply to clubs. This is Jeremy Boot, G4NJH.
So, you want to be part of the World Radio Sport Team Championship, but you didn't qualify, and you're not in Italy right now. Well, that's a small point, really, if you want to get in on the action.
While amateur radio teams from all over the world compete in the WRTC on July 8th and July 9th, hams from all over the world can now compete right along with the competitors. Organisers have announced the WRTC 2022 Competition Award. Yes, it's still known as WRTC 2022 because of the one-year COVID delay. Hams who have had QSOs with competing stations in the championship can work towards this award by getting on the air during the contest and listening for the action. Organisers recommend that those seeking the award submit their complete logs within 6 hours after the contest ends, which will be at 1800 UTC, Sunday the 9th of July. The WRTC 2022 Competition Award is the latest event created in support of the championship. The WRTC 2023 award, offered earlier, challenged radio operators to make contacts with special event stations in 12 regions throughout Italy. There were also special event stations around the world, most of them also ending with the suffix. This is Graham Kemp, VK4BB.
And for our final item this week, we are proud to announce the winner of the 2023 Amateur Radio Newsline, Bill Pasternak Memorial Young Ham of the Year Award. Amateur Radio Newsline's Mark Abramovich, NT3V, is the chairman of the award program, and he spoke with our latest honoree.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Yes, that is so cool. Thank you so much.
And that was the reaction of Case Van Osprey, W0 Alpha Alpha Echo of Maple Grove, Minnesota, in suburban Minneapolis upon learning he had been selected as the Young Ham of the Year. Case recently turned 19 years old, just making the cutoff for the award. He's the son of Mark and Jean Van Osprey. He's a recent honors graduate of Heritage Christian Academy in Maple Grove and was the valedictorian for his class. Case says when he was 12, during a museum visit, he spotted a fascinating exhibit that sparked his curiosity about amateur radio.
And I saw this cool amateur radio shack there. There was this cool map with all of their markers where they made contacts assigned Antarctica.
Case will begin college in August at Iowa State University.
I'm really excited because they have a great aerospace engineering program 3.5 hours away from me, so not too far away. There are only a few colleges in the country that actually do this particular major.
Congratulations, Case, from all of us at Amateur Radio Newsline. I'm Mark Abramovich, NT3V.
There's much more to learn about Case, and you can hear the entire story in this week's Amateur Radio Newsline report. We'll present Case with the award on stage at the Huntsville Hamfest in Alabama, Saturday afternoon, August 19th, and you are cordially invited to join us there. And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news since 1976 at arnewsline.org. With Jeremy Boot, G4NJH, Graham Kemp, VK4BB, Mark Abramovich, NT3V, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wellbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now, here's the solar update from Dr. Tamitha Skov, WX6SWW.
Our sun has gotten quite busy this week. As we take a look at our Earth-facing disk, we are saying goodbye to region 3354, but not before it fires a big X-class flare bam, right there on the 2nd. Now, you'd think that it would launch a big solar storm along with that, but no, it actually didn't. However, this region is continuing to stay flare active, and we're going to be dealing with noise on the amateur radio bands here on the day side for the next day or so before this region completely disappears behind the sun's west limb. Now, the new activity is pretty much all located in the south. We have regions 33, 57, 58, and 59, and they're really kind of tied up in a very complex configuration along with a couple of filaments. And as you've been watching that region, that area, you've seen a few filament launches. There was one on the 2nd, and then we got a launch of another filament up in the north. That is a solar storm that is going to be going northeast of Earth. But then on the 4th, we get kind of this weird kind of reconfiguration just above that southern coronal hole, and it just lets go. It's kind of hard to see on the disk, but when we take a look at it in coronagraphs, whoosh, you can see that big partial halo in the south. That is an Earth-directed solar storm, and along with the one that launched northeast of us, it sure looks like we're going to get some decent activity starting maybe late on the 6th and into the 7th. We're already seeing a little bit of the mini solar storms from some of the filament launches that happened earlier, so we could get some decent aurora over the 6th and the 7th, possibly the 8th, and then we're going to get a bit of fast solar wind to boot. So we could have some activity, especially at high latitudes, until about the 9th before things really settle down. So this is good news for aurora photographers who's been waiting for so long for some decent activity. Now, switching to our far-sighted monitor, this is stereo A, and it's looking at the sun just a smidge from the side. As you take a look in stereo's view, you can see that big coronal hole in the south. That was the one that I was talking about. That should orient you. And you can also see that kind of finger-like coronal hole kind of in center disk. Well, that is going to be rotating into the Earth strike zone in and around the 8th or so, and that's going to be the fast solar wind that's going to chase the 1-2 punch that we're getting that could extend that storming for a little while. But as we take a look at the east limb in stereo's view, look down in the south. Do you see that bright region? Now, one of those, there's actually several regions here, and one of those regions is region 3363 that's just beginning to rotate into Earth view, but another one, and there's one behind that. We have to look at the JSOC helioseismology far-sighted viewer, and we take a look at that. You can actually see those dark regions. Those are old active regions that are surviving their far-sighted passage, and they're strong. So these regions are going to be rotating into Earth view here in the next couple days. Plus, we have this coronal hole that you can also see kind of in the north. That's going to be giving us some fast solar wind here in about probably 2 weeks or so. So you definitely can see that we're going to have some big activity coming up very soon, including big flare players and perhaps some more chances for solar storming. For more details on this week's space weather, including how these coming solar storms could affect you, come check out my channel or see me at spaceweatherwoman.com.
Thank you, Dr. T. We certainly appreciate everything that you do for us. Follow her on Twitter at Tamitha Scove. Her YouTube channel is Tamitha Scove. And of course, spaceweatherwoman.com is the website. Make sure you follow her on Twitter. Seriously, one of the best follows you'll ever make. I don't think she sleeps because she's constantly tweeting about space weather and everything else. And congratulations to Case Van Osbury, who is our Young Hem of the Year winner. Case has been on the show before, I think, and we'll have him on again here real soon as we can schedule that.
On. Yeah, he's just a brilliant kid.
He's amazing.
Congratulations, Case. I can't even think of somebody that is more deserving of this.
Yeah,
Don,
he's amazing. Yeah, I was very pleased when the judges told me who it was. I said, yeah, perfect representative for amateur radio, that's for sure. So we're going to have him back on the show here as soon as we possibly can. Of course, come meet him at the Huntsville Ham Fest in August, the third weekend in Huntsville, Alabama. On stage, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, our usual time right there in the Huntsville Ham Fest. And someone else you can meet at the Huntsville Ham Fest is this guy right here. Are you going to have your hat, Joe? That's what I want to know.
Actually, yes. This will be the first time wearing it at Huntsville. I will wear the famous hat.
Wow. I'll wear my party dress.
Well, we'll see you in your kilt, maybe.
Perhaps.
And I'll be honored to take the photos for CQ Magazine as well. That's awesome. Looking very much forward to another great Huntsville Ham Fest. Well, let's see what we've been doing in the kit world. First off, for some reason, it's not there. Let me see if this works.
Skype updates, you know how it goes, right? There it is.
Okay, hold on. That's the wrong one. So hold on. I don't know why it did that. Huh. So that
When he sorts
is
that
what
out,
we
we'll
want.
chat.
There we go.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
It was an update that kind of messed it up. Okay, this was my operating position from K0KKV Field Day here in Lincoln. And each of our operating positions had a tough book. And I got those surplus from work and cleaned them up and set them all up and ready to go for amateur radio, especially digital modes as well. And those tough books are made for field day. So I used my 7300 and my tough book and did 20 meter sideband, FT8 and FT4, which was actually a really productive mode on field day. So don't forget FT4 in some of these digital operating situations. This is kind of a shot of what our field day site looked like from the side. That is the older Lincoln-Lancaster County Emergency Management Communications trailer. They now have a newer one, and we hams have pretty much taken over the old one. And but it is still run by the Emergency Management Agency. You can see the tower on the left, and that tower had a TH3 Junior on it. And it was run with one single feed line to a triplexer. And the way a triplexer works is we can run 3 bands, 3 separate transceivers at once on the same antenna. And actually, when you're talking about using band pass or band stop filters to filter out the adjacent stations that are really close by on field day, well, guess what? A triplexer lets you use the same antenna if it's a multi-band antenna and no interference at all. It actually controls it a lot better than just simple filters. This was our tent that had the GATA station in it, and they operated 15, 10, and 6 and 2. They actually ran net control of the local 2-meter net from field day. This is the problem that I want people to take note of on field day. My meter is showing 98 volts coming out of that generator. Now you say, well, what's causing that? Well, part of that was the fact that the trailer I was in had an air conditioner, and when that kicked in, it dropped it a couple of volts. But still, even with the air conditioner off, just the lights on, our voltage was about 103. So you say, what do you do about that? Well, the problem is that the generator was too far away. So there's 2 solutions to that. One is to use a heavier gauge drop cord between the generator and the trailer. The other is to move the generator closer. Now, of course, you don't want the generator right next to it for 2 reasons. Number 1 is noise, and number 2 is carbon monoxide. You don't want that next to your trailer as well. So you got to kind of find a happy medium. So you got to be careful of where you put the generator. If it's too far away, you're going to get voltage drop in the extension cords. And if it's too close, you're going to get the noise and the carbon monoxide. So you got to find that happy medium. So after we shortened it up a bit, got rid of at least 50 feet of extension cord, the voltage was right back up there to about 121, which was just fine even with the air conditioner on. This is our field day committee as well as club board members and our section manager, KA0BOJ, handing the proclamation for field day that was created by Governor Jim Pillen. And our section manager is presenting a copy of that to our club president. So we had Amateur Radio Day in Nebraska. Here's another shot of it. Sunday morning, everything is still running fine. It was sunny and not quite as hot. It wasn't near 100. It was in the 70s. It was very comfortable on Sunday morning, so we could keep going till the end. Our Sunday tradition is our past club presidents cook breakfast on field day. And so we had eggs and pancakes and bacon and sausage and all sorts of things for breakfast for field day. This is a project that I printed with my 3D printer. I just got a Tiny SA Ultra spectrum analyzer so that I can check the harmonic output of some of these kits. And it's kind of clumsy to deal with. And I thought, well, I wonder if there's a solution. Of course, I looked up online, and sure enough, for 3D printing, somebody had created a nice base, and it even has a hole on the right side at the bottom, so you can have your USB cable already plugged into it, powering it while it's still in the cradle. It doesn't obviously enclose it. There is another 3D project I can do that stores it in a box. But if I'm working with it on my desk, this is the way to go. And it even has the stylus. If you look in the upper right, the stylus goes in the upper right. Now we'll see if we can show it right there in the cradle. You can see the stylus sticking up in the right, and that's it. Sitting on my 3D printer and running. And a note about the 3D printer is that just before I printed this, I switched from using the composite plastic mats to using a stainless steel flexible mat on my printer. And I'm telling you, it makes a huge amount of difference. By far, my highest quality prints I've ever made have been made recently with the stainless steel mat. Nothing seems to stick to it except for the filament. And when it cools off, it just lifts right off. Absolutely fantastic. So if you got a 3D printer, look into if there is a stainless steel base that is designed to fit your printer. And it is flexible, and it's magnetic, and works quite well. So we're going to go to the camera here, and let me see here if it'll let me show this to you. We'll boot it up, and there it is. It's not very big. It's about a 4-inch screen, and you can see all the RF around here. And I was surprised that some of these other signals that it's seeing are signals that are coming out of my cell phone. When I turned it off, those signals went away. So I thought, oh, yeah, I wonder why there was like 600 or 700 meg signals. Oh, yeah, it must be my phone. So that works real well. Josh was showing stealthy radios on his show a few days ago. This is a Fox 3. This is from the, I think, GQRP and so forth. It's a British kit, and it all fits in there. No jacks or plugs on the outside, but you can see I have the 4 mounting screws on the bottom. But that's about as discreet as it gets. If I'm going fishing, I want my fisherman's friend. Okay? And if you look at the back, oh, there's places to plug in power, a headset, a key, the antenna, and there's a button, and that button controls the frequency offset, and it controls the speed of the keyer that's built in. It has a keyer built in, and there it is on the inside, all nice and neat inside there. And you talk about having something discreet you can pack along with you when you're traveling. There you go, 0.5 watt CW transceiver. And a lot of fun. And the rock mites are still made by Rex at qrpme.com. And still a fun kit. And for those doing the 13 colonies, you can do it because I got my clean sweep, including the bonus stations, in a little over 2 hours or so of operating here. So fortunately, the band was up. The band faded out, as Tamitha mentioned, that there were disturbances. And then when it came right back, I got back on and finished it up. So Josh, we'll hand it back to you.
Well, thank you very much. By the way, actually, I'll show you on the If you got those Fisherman Friends tins, make sure you hang on to them because they've gone to these baggies now. At least the ones in my store does. So if you've got the tins, hang on to those. Those are useful for all kinds of fun covert.
That
ham
is
radio
not
projects.
progress.
Yes,
is not
that's
progress.
right,
No.
right. I don't want to spoil my own thunder because I have a video I'm working on with all the amazing video that I took in San Clemente. But I did field day at San Clemente Island, which is a pretty rare destination for most people to even get to, let alone actually be able to work ham radio from there. So, yeah, I don't know why my audio keeps going down too, but everybody on YouTube comments on it. I apologize for that. I don't know why it drops. I adjusted it, guys. I don't know what I can say. But let me go through these. So here's flying out of Coronado Island. We were in a Twin Otter. That was the picture you saw. And we got to see a sub get taken out to sea there. Had a little escort ships going along with it. It was pretty cool. But landing on San Clemente Island, small little aircraft or a little runway strip with a small airport, if you could call it that. But it was, about what you'd expect, right? It's a naval auxiliary landing station, so it's not really a public-facing type of thing. So really, it's just some simple information to get out there and just let people know what's going on. But the first thing we did was drop our bags at our little cottage. That you can see that little white building there. That's where we stayed. So no, we weren't camping. That was the big confusion for my wife. She was like, "Are you camping when you're out there?" I'm like, "No, we had a little cabin we were in." And then she was all upset she didn't go. So, but as far as the island's concerned, there's like no trees. That we found one tree, which we think was an oak, and it was fairly off in the distance and kind of in a little crotch of a hill. But here's one of the scenic lookouts. This is going to be facing north, and in fact, you might be able to see Catalina there on the right a little bit. Beautiful, some of the landscape shots that I got and everything going on. But you can see in the background already, there's little antennas and stuff like that all over the place. As you're driving around, though, you see fun little signs like this. I don't think this counts as a national forest. I could be wrong, but FYI, there's no POTA there, unfortunately. If there was, we probably would have been making use of that because it's not accessible by the public, so you can't really make it a POTA location. However, it is a summit on the air location, which we'll talk about here. And there's fun little signs, slow, watch for fox, and in this case, watch for a fox den, because there is a native species of fox we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, our first stop on Friday before field day was actually the Soda Summit. This is a one level 1 point POTA summit, which I think everybody activated. I think that we had no issue activating with a myriad of different ways. I know that Adam was doing CW. He also did simplex, and I think he might have did single sideband, weak signal as well. So yeah, really, really good. So on field day, we had a pretty nice little setup. This is DM03. This classifies as DM03RX from a grid square location. Where the people live on the island is actually the northmost side of the island, and that is actually DM02. So you actually have to come down south, and in our case, south and east to this location that we set up. I had the Buddy Hex hex beam, which you probably saw on the live stream. By the way, there's 2 live streams that I posted every day. Am I wrong? Oh, Austin, are you correcting me? DM02. Yeah, that makes sense. DM02RX. Thank you. I have the 2s and the 3s mixed up. So we were running off the Buddy Hex on 10 meters up to 20, and Adam brought a bunch of different antennas, but there in the background is his 2-meter single sideband antenna that he brought along. It had a cool little rotor attachment. Adam will probably make a video on that, so we can... There's a zoomed out shot. You can see our 6-meter antenna that Austin was running. Austin is largely doing a lot of contacts with the Fred Fish folks. So that antenna, I want to say, is a semi-permanent antenna. It's up there set up, and he periodically makes contacts with people when he works out SCED. So if you need that, contact, make sure you get in touch. And then there's a vertical antenna on top of that, and next to that is Adam's half curtain antenna on, I think this was Sunday, because it was really tough to take pictures and video on Saturday because we had a bit of wind. Here's our operating station, or my operating station, but here's the shot of the wind. So if you know what a Buddy Hex looks like, right? That's a hex beam antenna. Look at how deviated that is under the wind. You can actually see the billowing loops there of the elements on the lines. It was really strong wind, and you can see that 6-meter antenna is pretty canted over a little bit. Pretty wild. It was an intense amount of wind. We persevered though. We made some decent contacts on Saturday and even more on Sunday. Now, for the native species, you may not be able to see it. I've got a more close-up picture, but that's the island fox. Let's see if we can zoom in on him a little bit. So that is a fox that is native to only San Clemente Island. That is the only place you can find these. And from my understanding from reading a little info panel that was right there at the airport, it is believed that these were brought over at some point by native peoples, either as pets or food or something. I don't know, but that is what they look like. And here's a shot that Austin took, I believe. That's what they look like. They're cute little buggers. They weigh about 6 pounds on the higher side of their weight. And yeah, my wife really was upset after she saw that picture that I didn't get her one, which would be a hard felony and a $10,000 fine.
Yeah.
So we skipped that. We skipped that as far as souvenirs go. And yeah, that's the little info block there as you come into the island. Really, really cool. And yeah, they're about the size of a house cat. We saw one that was really rip-roaring through the weeds on the first day, jumping around and stuff. It was really, really cool. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. So there's the crew. There's Adam, Marty, Heather. There's Austin, and there's me in my FT8 jacket. But yeah, it was a fantastic time. I absolutely loved it, and I hope we could do it again in the future. But who knows? We'll see how it all goes. Look forward to a video where I go through a lot of the whole process. I've got hundreds of gigs of videos that I shot on all kinds of different aspects of the travel, not just the ham radio stuff, but because Adam got into fishing actually in a spot that you get people outside of the island can't actually fish from. You have to be on the island to do fishing from this location, which was also pretty cool. So anyway, there's my story, and I'll throw to Amanda here. You take it away, Amanda.
Thank you, Josh. One quick question that we had in the chat room. How does one get a QSL card from KN6UWK?
That's a great question. So Austin, that is Austin, DM03. Thank you for the correction. So I believe, Amanda, there's some QSL cards that someone is making for that club.
Yeah,
is that correct?
They're on their way. So, but do they need to send an SASE if they contacted you?
I believe, well, we've got Austin in the chat, so he may be able to answer that.
Austin, tell us, Austin.
Yeah, Austin,
and
so
then,
I don't know how's that works. That single self-addressed stamped envelope,
I was also confused. So what section were you in? Were you in San Diego?
No, it's LAX. It counts as Los Angeles County. Yeah, even though it's almost kind of due-ish west from San Diego, it's LAX. That was our division.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Austin, you put in that answer, and we'll get back to that question. Anyhow, I'm just going to recap my field day, which obviously everybody saw 2 weeks ago was amazing. We had a crazy setup. And Josh, you can just cruise through these photos. Just wanted to share.
They're
in Dropbox.
Okay. Well, you keep talking, and I'll find them because I don't see a folder.
I'm so sorry. We had 32 operators or guests. We had about 4 kids, and I think we got every single one of them on the Gordo station, which was really great. Now I'm going to have a video on that. And once again, I'm so sorry, Josh.
I got it.
Okay. And anyhow.
Wrong one. Hold on. I'm on the wrong one. This one. That's it.
So we talked about some learning experiences. I think that usually we learn about safety during field day. And we were parked a little close to a power line with a vertical antenna. And when they were not erecting it, taking it down, it got dangerously close to arcing with the power line. And so lesson learned, don't do that. Another thing, as you can see, I hate to point out my own peers in my own club, but you notice that there's not a lot of hard hats or anything like that. But everybody takes that for granted anyhow. And my dog shows up in a lot of these pictures. So let's see, what else do we got there, Josh? That's a 10 gig setup. So we made a 10 gig contact with one of our buddies that was at a campsite not too far away. That's always a really fun time, and they're really into that. So we made that work. And what else did everyone make a satellite contact? I hope you did. We finally made one at the 11th hour. It was seriously 11 o'clock. There I am. Oh, gosh. Who's that in the background?
Nice.
That's when I'm on Ham Nation showing off everything. So that's half of our comm trailer. And what else do we got going on here? This was Goda. Is this a video, Josh?
We can play it. Yep.
Yeah, this is a Goda contact. This is, I think her name is Ava, and she's about 9 years old. Go ahead.
Okay.
Field day. Whiskey 0 Kilo Victor Alpha. CQ field day.
Charlie, 7 Zulu, go ahead.
So,
No, tell them to repeat the call sign.
repeat your call sign.
Kilo,
It's
Charlie,
so cute.
7 Zulu. Okay, go ahead. And then go ahead and say this is Whiskey 0 Kilo Victor Alpha.
This is Whiskey 0 Kilo Victor Alpha.
It's a bit daunting at first, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's so adorable, though. They learn
great.
so
I love it.
much.
Oh,
I
I love
know.
I love
The
it.
Goda station is so important. And Gordo, I'm sure you can agree that this is part of the whole spirit of Field Day.
Planting seeds. That's what
yep.
you're doing.
Yep. And she is she has 3 sisters, so they all got on the air. And this is our whole group.
Wow, that's a big group. What were you running? How many
3
transceivers?
Alpha. 3 Alpha.
3 Alpha, but that's a huge group. Nice.
I know. Well, we could keep it running all night that way. So I can't remember the rest of the photos that we have. Oh, see, there's radio in the background. Working on an antenna. We had a lot of resonance issues, and some of our club members are a little bit more particular about making sure everything is resonant, rather than just running the tuner. So it took us a bit to get things set up. Is the way I could say it best. And that's the whole camp.
That's awesome.
Look at all those campers
that's
out
great.
there. And our camper was in there. And oh gosh, you guys, we had such a great time. And it was my first time up at 9,300 feet. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it with the lung situation, but I had gotten cleared. So I brought oxygen with me. I needed it a couple of times, but it was beautiful. It was a beautiful weekend. You know, sometimes we've been up there and it has snowed on us 2 inches.
Wow.
If anything,
June.
it's a good workout for your lungs. If anything, right? You got
Yes, exactly.
It was physical therapy, Amanda. Think about it
I
like
think-
that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
It's how
No
I
cocaine.
justified it with work.
There you go.
What else do we got? Another antenna. This was our vertical that we were going to use on 80. It worked out pretty good. And kind of like Joe, worked kind of like 2 FT8 stations at the same time. One person could do it. So it would be on 40 and 80 and making contacts both ways. So that was fun. Our best time on 80 was this year. We've always sucked on 80. Our dipoles that we've put up have been terrible. And then just another shot of it erected. Our comm trailer and Jeff there in the background. And of course we had to put up a flag because why not?
Mm-hmm.
America. One of our Yagis.
Oh, that's a pneumatic. I didn't realize that was out of a van. Look at that,
Yeah,
guys. That's
yeah.
cool. Look at that.
Yeah, we bring
Old
and
TV
those
truck,
were
yeah.
those were donated to the club by CBS News here in Denver. And we have 4 of them now. So one sits in our driveway. Well, actually, we went and moved it to the EOC here, but yeah, there's 3 of them in other places in the state. So they're ready to be deployed, and I should just give you guys a van tour again, because the things that we have inside to help with EOC operations and any kind of emergency communications, it would blow your mind. So I'll do that later. But
yeah.
Anyhow, antenna analyzing, checking things out.
Got a good piece of kit there.
Yeah, and there it was lowered down.
That's for when he's driving, right?
Yeah.
Is that how he drove it?
No. Oh, goodness, no.
That's his mobile setup, right? That's in converter mode.
It's not a VHF rig, man. Come on. No, we had to assemble that and measure it all out and everything. And they're all A3Ss is what we had. But I'm going to complain a little bit that these were brand new A3Ss and they were missing parts, and we had to find clamps and things like that to make them work. But that's the rest of my complaining. And that's our camper, by the way. That's there in the left-hand side. And what else we got, Josh? Yeah, some more operating. You can see N3JFP operating in the background there. We have a huge screen in there, so we put the tally on there, so we are all competing, and like each station wants to be the best and get the most QSOs. So it's a competition within a competition, right? So CW's fighting against phone and things like that. And that's when it looked clean. That was before the beers came out, I think.
There's only one I see there. Yes, that's right. That's when you're just getting started.
That's us assembling the A3S, and a great group of people, really smart. It was a really fun time. What else we got?
Look at that landscape, though. That's impressive.
I know. Well,
Colorado just looks like
we're
that.
so used to that, so we just take it for granted. Another kiddo, he's 17. His name is JP. Never knew what amateur radio was until his ride up there. So I wanted to show him off because he learned so much, and he actually tried to take his test while he was up there on Sunday afternoon. He didn't pass, but he came close. So I'm really proud of the kiddo. Definitely. There's Jeff and his best friend Mikey. So, that's the big screen where in the background there, that's where we put up the scoreboard. That's what I call it. But anyhow, they were just getting started. And this one is just so funny because this dog doesn't belong to me, but I was hanging out in my camper and it decided to just come hang out with me. And so I just had to show
Weekend
that
dog.
Amanda made a friend.
I can only make dog friends. Oh, dang.
You can do worse.
And I wanted to mention one more thing. Thank you, everybody, for your traffic messages that you sent to me. I appreciate it. I'm trying to return them all and send them back via WinLink if you have a WinLink address. So one more thing before we go. We got to talk about the 13 colonies because you still have a day and a half or so to get those worked out. So Josh is going to show us the 13 colonies site. Raise your hands in chat room if you got your clean sweep already. Yes.
This whole working thing is really getting on my nerves. I gotta quit or something. I got no time to do anything.
Getting in the way of all the fun stuff, right?
It really is. It really is.
I got my clean sweep yesterday, I think. Yeah.
I've
seen a lot of people
too,
on
for everybody who's
Facebook
not
popping
aware.
up with clean sweep stuff.
Kilo 2 Charlie was they were a strong holdout for me. So Josh, do you do that? Do you do the 13 colonies?
I too do have no time. 4th of July is always like a family thing, and I appreciate that it's all week long, but it just so happens that being a day off or sometimes 2 days off from work as it is right now, and some people are parlaying it into an entire week. A lot of the people that I need to talk with, I'm strategically chasing people down at work. So, another thing, work getting in the way of actually having fun, right?
And Joe got his clean sweep.
Yes, I did. And It was a lot of fun. I was kind of mixed mode. One of them was CW, couple were FT8, and the rest were on sideband.
Well, there you go. I got them all on sideband. How about you, Gordo? Do you chase them?
I did, and I got 3.
Oh.
We do have a harder time out here.
I've gotten the clean sweep a couple of years in a
why?
row now. I just haven't had time to do it this year.
They're on 20 all the time. Like, you should be no problem.
I've never
Of course-
got a clean sweep. I've attempted it, but I've never got it. And I always have trouble with the DX stations, usually the one that gets me, and some of the ones that are outside the U.S.
Yeah, the France one. Actually, they were pretty strong yesterday.
Yeah, they were actually quite strong.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, the Great Britain station is quite often on D-Star. That's generally how I have to get him, is on D-Star.
Oh, there's a pro tip for everybody. Get the D-Star DX.
You know, Josh, I figured out our problem, Josh. If we would have just been born rich instead of so doggone good looking.
I know, right? Easy life tip, guys. Get born rich. That's your life hack.
You do not want to be born with a silver spoon, trust me. I don't think that's a good idea. Hard knocks is the best way to go. Okay, I think we're ready to wrap.
I'm lightly concussed, though, Amanda, from all these knocks that I'm... no, I'm just kidding. We did get an answer from Austin that I want to hit really fast. So he says, I can send out QSL cards if people send me them, and once I get the cards from Amanda, I'll start sending them out regularly. Now, do the man a solid, and if you can, self-addressed stamped envelope.
Send an SASE.
Highly appreciated if you could do that.
It's the right thing.
It's totally the respectable thing to do.
It's the nice thing to do.
Having seen the cards, I know that they can just have a stamp slapped on the back of it and shipped as a postcard. If that's how you want your QSL to arrive, postcard shipped, then if you send an envelope and it's self-addressed, you should be good. You'll get yourself back a nice clean card.
But you don't want the postal handling machine between you and them to tear it up.
Right?
I mean, I've gotten QSL cards where the thing has eaten through the envelope and tore all the way through the card. You don't want that. Put it in.
And on postcards, they put the ugly orange stamp on the bottom of it. So
they do.
There's that.
Yeah, you don't want that. Send an SASE. It's a stamp for crying out loud. You can afford a stamp. If you can afford ham radio, you can afford SASEs.
I think so, Don. Well said.
Okay, anyone else have anything else for the show?
I got one more thing, and then we'll wrap it up. Wanted to give a big shout out to our friends over at the Long Island CW Club. They started a YouTube channel, and so they've taken a lot of their kind of the how to get set up for their different beginner classes, intermediate classes for learning Morse code, and their advanced classes, plus a ton of great little talks, as well as some really cool stuff I found on how to educate people. I would argue not just in the world of learning Morse code, but just in how to be a good teacher to people. And you don't actually have to be a licensed teacher to convey information to folks, and so I found a lot of those videos helpful. So I think I linked that in the show notes, but if not, I dropped it in the chat. So there you go.
As our friend Bill Pasternak, WA6ITF, who was from Brooklyn, would have said it, Long Island.
Long Island?
Yes. Long Island. Yeah.
All
Long
right.
Island.
I always get corrected on my pronunciation of everything outside of California. So,
well, you're not from Brooklyn.
Oh, you're such a valley girl.
I definitely have that twang in my voice.
There's a visual.
Well, yeah, I'll do pigtails and the next time we do our show again. All right,
do the
everybody.
Feathered hair situation.
Crimp it. Do the crimp my. Get the little.
Heck yeah.
There you go.
Okay, let's go over some couple of notes. Don't forget D-Star is on 14 Charlie. They're operating right now. And we have, sorry, I have to squint at my screen here. K7 UDI, I think, is on 20, around 14 to 68 or so. You'll find them. Look on your waterfall if you have an ICOM. And Kevin, KC7 FPF. Is on 40 meters. It's going to be a little static crashy tonight, but maybe you can get in there. Our next episode is going to be July 19th, where we're going to go over some summertime fun and on ham radio, that is, and some soda 14er activities, and I can't wait for it. So I think we're done here.
All right,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone, for joining us. And I hope everyone had a happy and safe 4th, and I hope you all still have your hands.
Yep.
Yes, we do.
Indeed,
Yep.
indeed.
And thanks for tuning in and giving us a reason to be here every other Wednesday. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank
Absolutely.
you. We do. So
You
thanks,
bet.
everybody.
Always an honor to be here.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Yes. All right, everybody. Well, we appreciate, again, you all watching. And until we talk to you again, it'll be about 2 weeks. So you might as well subscribe and click that bell so you get notified when we get on the air again. Until then, get out there, play that ham radio, get that clean sweep, and 73.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.